Welcome back to the Mad Genius Thesis. I'm really looking forward to this deep dive today.
Yeah, I'm excited too.
Uh, as always, we're kind of grappling with that age-old question,
Yeah.
Is there a link between creativity and mental illness?
It's a question that's fascinated, thinkers for centuries.
And one that we're, always kind of circling back to.
Yeah, exactly.
So today we're exploring it through Harry Eiss's book, Divine Madness, and I'm really curious to see where this goes.
I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I hope so. Right off the bat, Eiss kind of throws us a curveball with this whole scapegoat ritual from the book of Leviticus.
Yeah, he connects this ancient ritual, this really old ritual, to a fundamental human psychological mechanism. Projection. Okay, think about it. You take a goat, you load it up with all the sins of the community.
Like literally all the community's sins, right?
Yeah, and then you send it out into the wilderness.
To die.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay, so what's going on there?
It's like symbolically casting out all the bad stuff, everything you don't want to deal with anymore.
Exactly. Eiss argues that this ritual reflects our deep-seated need to project our own darkness, our own flaws onto something else or someone else.
Yeah.
It's like, get it out of here. I don't want it.
Get out of here.
Take our problems with you.
I don't want to see yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And this is, it's a powerful idea.
Okay, but how does that relate to creativity? I mean, sending a goat off into the wilderness to die, it doesn't exactly... how does that relate to artistic inspiration?
Well, Eiss connects this to the creative process by suggesting that, artists often project their own, inner conflicts and anxieties and desires onto their work.
Oh, so...
It's a way of externalizing those things.
So instead of a goat, it's like a canvas or a musical score or whatever.
Precisely. It's a way of working through those emotions in a symbolic way of giving them form and expression outside of yourself.
That's a fascinating idea. It makes you wonder, are artists more prone to projection because they have a greater need to process these intense emotions?
That's a really good question.
Right.
That's a question that Eiss delves into further by examining the psychological landscape of creativity, particularly through Freud's Oedipus complex.
Wait, the Oedipus complex, isn't that about wanting to marry your mother and kill your father?
Right.
How does that relate to, painting or music or anything creative?
Right. Well, it's not about the literal act,
Right.
but more about the underlying psychological dynamics. The Oedipus complex, it highlights this struggle for power, the desire to, break free from authority figures, the father in this case, but really any authority figure.
Right.
And so this, the struggle against authority figures, it kind of mirrors the artist's need to break free from conventions and create something new, something, original.
So it's about rebelling against limitations and forging your own path. I can see how that could translate to creative energy.
Exactly. And it ties back to the concept of projection. By projecting our own anxieties and desires onto our art, we can, sort of explore those emotions in a safe space.
It's like a form of psychological alchemy, transforming darkness into something beautiful and meaningful.
I like that. It's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Eiss also delves into the darker side of this dynamic with the concept of the double or the doppelganger, a recurring theme in literature.
Like in Poe's William Wilson, where the main character is haunted by his own double, right?
Yeah.
It's a chilling exploration of the shadow self, the darker aspects of our personality.
Exactly. And Eiss argues that this fascination with the double reflects our own anxieties about the hidden parts of ourselves.
The parts we maybe don't want to acknowledge or look at too closely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, the classic example of this is Robert Louis Stevenson's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh, yeah. That split between the respectable doctor and the monstrous Hyde. It's like it's a literal representation of the shadow's self, like running wild.
Right, precisely, unleashed. Eiss analyzes another really compelling example, the novel and subsequent movie The Letter, and he uses it to really unpack how those darker impulses, can lead to deceit and even tragedy.
So we're seeing this recurring theme of duality, this split between the light and shadow within ourselves. But how does this duality actually fuel creativity?
That's where the concept of the shadow self comes in, as popularized by Carl Jung. And it's not about, denying or repressing these darker aspects. It's about, integrating them into a whole personality.
So instead of fearing the shadow, we should embrace it as a part of who we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but how do we do that?
Well, I suggest that artistic expression can be a powerful tool for this integration. It allows us to explore those shadow elements in a safe and symbolic way.
It makes me think about the role of the shaman in some cultures. They're often seen as individuals who can, navigate between this world that we see and the spirit world, these unseen realms.
That's a great connection. Eiss actually draws parallels between shamanic experiences and the symptoms of schizophrenia,
Hmm.
particularly the idea of accessing alternate realities.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, are these,
Okay.
what we call mental illnesses? Maybe they're just different ways of perceiving the world, ways that are actually, honored in some cultures.
Hmm. That's a powerful perspective shift.
Yeah, it really is. And
Yeah.
and Eiss also talks about these concepts of essential and paranoid schizophrenia
Mhm.
terms that sound very clinical, but actually point to different ways of relating to the world.
Okay, I'm curious, what's the difference between these two types of schizophrenia?
Well, in essential schizophrenia, the individual withdraws from the external world,
Okay.
retreating into their own internal reality.
Mhm.
Imagine just becoming disconnected from this shared reality that most of us experience.
So it's like they're living in a different world altogether.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, yes.
Okay.
And that must make it incredibly difficult to, connect with others.
Right, to function in the world as we know it.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's paranoid schizophrenia, where the individual, they remain engaged with the world, but they perceive it as hostile or threatening.
Okay, so it's not that they've withdrawn, it's that they see danger everywhere.
Yeah, precisely. They might experience delusions of persecution, believing that, others are out to get them or trying to harm them in some way.
That must be terrifying.
It would be. I mean, imagine, living in that state of, constant fear and suspicion.
Yeah, and it's a stark reminder that the line between what we consider sane and insane is often blurry.
Mhm.
And that mental illness can manifest in so many different ways.
That's right. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eiss then pivots to the world of artistic expression and this idea of constructing a self.
Hmm.
He
Interesting.
talks about how artists like Bob Dylan and John Wayne create and inhabit these alternate personas.
Hmm.
And these aren't just characters they play on stage or on screen, right?
Yeah.
They're extensions of themselves, ways of exploring different facets of their personality.
That's right.
So it's like trying on different masks, different identities to see which ones resonate.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It's a way of sort of experimenting with different aspects of the self.
And in doing so, they tap into something universal, something that speaks to the human experience.
Precisely.
They become storytellers, weaving narratives that help us make sense of our own lives.
Hmm.
Eiss also examines the writings of people who have experienced mental illness firsthand, like Daniel Paul Schraber. Schraber's memoirs of My Nervous Illness, it provides a chilling glimpse into the world of paranoia, and the impact of a rigid upbringing.
Hmm.
And he also brings in the perspective of someone on the autism spectrum, Temple Grandin.
Yeah.
And what's so valuable about these personal narratives is that they challenge our assumptions about what it means to be normal.
Yes, absolutely. They offer us a different lens through which to view the world.
And speaking of unsettling, Eiss, he takes us on a detour into the world of the paranormal.
Oh, boy.
He talks about ghosts and out-of-body experiences, even astral projection.
Wow.
And it's fascinating here, how these phenomena, whether we believe they're real or not, reflect our, enduring desire to connect with something beyond the material world, this yearning for the numinous.
That sense of awe and dread. Remember we talked about that earlier, the mysterium tremendum.
Right.
That sense of being overwhelmed by the vastness and mystery of existence.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be, a powerful source of creative inspiration.
It's like staring into the abyss, but also feeling a strange pull towards it, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's that tension between fear and fascination.
It makes you wonder, are those who experience these phenomena simply more attuned to the invisible world, the realm beyond our ordinary perception? Or are they, as some might say, losing touch with reality?
That's a really good question, and one that, Eiss doesn't offer easy answers to.
Right.
Instead, he invites us to consider the possibility that what we call madness might actually be a different way of knowing, a different way of being in the world.
Mhm.
And that's really, I think, the heart of what we're exploring here. This idea that, maybe there's more to reality than we typically perceive.
Okay, let's go back to the world we know, the world of belief systems.
Okay.
Eiss argues that these systems, whether they're religious, cultural, or personal, have a huge influence on our perceptions and experiences.
What?
I mean, think about it. If you believe the world is a dangerous place, you're more likely to, see threats everywhere and react accordingly, right?
Exactly. And if you believe in your own abilities and, have a positive outlook, you're more likely to achieve your goals and experience success.
So it's like the power of positive thinking, but on a much deeper level, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's about understanding how our beliefs literally shape our reality.
Hmm. So powerful.
It is, yeah, it really is.
And this leads us to another fascinating piece of the puzzle, the connection between creativity and the construction of the self.
Okay.
Eiss argues that artistic expression is a way of exploring the complexities of the self, of mapping meaning onto the world.
That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Yeah, it's about creating a narrative, a story that helps us make sense of our experiences.
So it's not just about expressing emotions, it's about creating a sense of order and meaning out of chaos.
Exactly.
Mhm.
He uses the example of artists like Bob Dylan and John Wayne to illustrate how they create these alternate personas that allow them to explore different facets of their personalities
Right.
and connect with their audiences on a deeper level.
So it's like they're creating a mythology of the self, a story that helps them and us navigate the complexities of the human experience.
I like that. It's a beautiful way to think about it.
Right. And in doing so, they tap into something universal, something that resonates with the human soul.
Mm,
They remind us that we're not alone in our struggles, our joys, our search for meaning.
that's right. It's that sense of shared humanity that art can evoke.
And that brings us back to the heart of the Mad Genius Thesis,
Mm,
this idea that there might be a link between, this extraordinary capacity for creativity and the vulnerability to mental illness.
mm.
It's a complex and nuanced topic, and we've only just begun to scratch the surface here.
Yeah, we've got a lot more to uncover in Divine Madness.
I'm really intrigued to see where Eiss takes us next.
Me too.
This is already pretty mind-blowing.
It is, yeah. It's a really thought-provoking book.
I'm glad we're doing this deep dive.
Me too.
This is great.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's really striking how, how Eiss, he weaves together these seemingly disparate threads like ancient myths and psychological theories and personal narratives.
Yeah, it's like he's creating this tapestry,
Yeah.
showing us how all these different perspectives kind of intertwine and
Hmm.
reveal this bigger picture.
Exactly. And speaking of different perspectives, Eiss also brings in the work of Donna Williams. She's an autistic writer who, like Temple Grandin, found a way to really articulate her experiences.
Yeah, and challenge those perceptions of autism.
Exactly. And what I find so compelling about these personal accounts is that they offer us this firsthand glimpse into what it's like to experience the world differently.
Right. It's a reminder that what we consider normal is really just this narrow slice of human experience.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a whole spectrum of ways of being in the world. And Eiss encourages us to embrace this diversity, to see it not as a threat, but as a source of, richness and understanding.
Eiss also delves into some pretty unconventional territory with his exploration of the paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
He talks about ghosts and out-of-body experiences and even astral projection.
Right, and I think what's key here is not whether these phenomena are real in a scientific sense, but rather what they reveal about the human psyche.
Okay.
They point to this deep-seated longing to connect with something beyond the material world, to tap into, the mysterious and the unknown.
And it's that yearning for the numinous again.
Yeah.
That sense of awe and wonder that we talked about earlier.
Precisely, and I suggest that that this yearning can manifest in many forms, from religious beliefs to paranormal experiences to creative expression.
So it's all kind of connected in a way.
Yeah, I think so.
Right.
It's like we're wired to seek meaning and connection, even if it means venturing into these uncharted territories.
Speaking of uncharted territories, Eiss brings up the concepts of essential and paranoid schizophrenia.
All right.
And these terms, they sound a bit clinical, but they actually describe different ways of experiencing and relating to the world.
That's right. With essential schizophrenia, the individual essentially withdraws from the external world,
Mm.
retreating into their own internal reality, you know?
So it's like they're living in a completely different world, one that's inaccessible to those of us who haven't had that experience.
In a way, yes, and this can make it incredibly difficult for them to connect with others, to function in society as we define it.
And then there's paranoid schizophrenia. What distinguishes that experience?
Well, in paranoid schizophrenia, the individual remains engaged with the external world, but they perceive it as hostile and threatening.
So it's not that they've withdrawn, it's that they see danger everywhere.
Yeah, precisely. And this perception can unfortunately lead to behaviors that are often seen as, erratic or even dangerous.
But it's important to remember that these individuals aren't, bad or crazy.
Right.
They're simply experiencing the world through a very different lens.
Exactly. It's a reminder that what we call mental illness is a spectrum.
Hmm.
It's a complex interplay of biology and psychology and lived experience.
And Eiss encourages us to, approach these experiences with empathy and understanding.
Yeah.
Recognizing that the line between what we call sanity and madness is often very blurry, and that we all have the capacity for both brilliance and vulnerability.
That's a really important point. We're all human and we all have our own strengths and weaknesses.
Absolutely.
And I think it's important to remember that when we're talking about, mental illness and creativity.
Now, Eiss also dives into this fascinating realm of belief systems and how they shape our perceptions of reality. He argues that our beliefs act as filters, shaping how we, interpret information and interact with the world.
That's right. He reminds us that we don't see the world as it is, but rather as we are,
Yep.
Filtered through our beliefs and preconceptions.
So if we believe the world is a dangerous place, we're more likely to perceive threats and act accordingly.
Exactly. And on the flip side, if we cultivate a more positive outlook, believing in our own abilities and potential, we're more likely to achieve our goals and experience success.
It's like that saying, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right.
Yeah, exactly. And this brings us to another fascinating dimension of Eiss's exploration, the connection between creativity and the construction of the self.
Okay.
He argues that artistic expression can be a way of exploring the complexities of our own identity, of mapping meaning onto the world and our place within it.
So it's not just about expressing emotions, it's about creating a sense of order and meaning out of the chaos of life.
Exactly. He uses the example of artists like Bob Dylan and John Wayne to illustrate how they create these alternate personas that allow them to explore different facets of themselves and connect with their audiences on a deeper level.
It's like they're using art to create a mythology of the self,
Yeah.
a story that helps them make sense of their own experiences and their place in the world.
That's right. And in doing so, they tap into something universal, something that resonates with all of us.
Eiss also delves into the experiences of individuals who have, navigated the world with different neurologies, like Temple Grandin. He examines her writings, exploring her unique perspective on the world as an autistic individual.
Yeah, and what's so valuable about Grandin's work and the work of others like her is that it challenges our preconceived notions of what it means to be normal. It expands our understanding of the human experience.
It's like she's offering us this glimpse into a different way of seeing, a way of being that's often misunderstood or marginalized.
Yeah, and by listening to these voices, by honoring these diverse perspectives, we can enrich our own understanding of the world and challenge our own biases and assumptions.
Yeah.
Precisely, and this openness to different perspectives, this willingness to step outside of our own limited frames of reference is essential for cultivating empathy and compassion and a more inclusive and understanding society.
It's about recognizing that are all interconnected,
Yeah.
that our individual experiences are part of this larger web of human consciousness. And by embracing this interconnectedness, by honoring the diversity of human experience, we can create a world that is more just and compassionate and inspiring. So it's inspiring to think that we all have this potential right to use our creativity as a force for good.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious about what happens when that creative impulse is blocked or suppressed.
Well, Eiss, he argues that stifling creativity can lead to all sorts of problems, like frustration, stagnation, even mental health challenges.
It's like it's essential for our well-being,
Hmm.
our sense of purpose,
I think so.
our ability to connect with the world, in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and it's not just about making art or being a musician or, whatever.
Right.
It's about finding outlets for that creative energy in all aspects of our lives.
So what happens when we deny that need? What happens when we try to suppress that creative impulse?
Well, think about it. If you have a child who's just bursting with energy, right? And you keep them cooped up inside all day,
Hmm.
they're going to get restless, irritable, maybe even destructive.
Right.
It's the same with the creative impulse. If we don't, if we don't give it an outlet, it can turn inward and create all sorts of problems.
So we need to create environments, whether it's at home, at school, in our communities, that nurture and support that creative expression.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to celebrate creativity in all its forms, from painting and music to, problem solving and innovative thinking.
It's about encouraging experimentation, risk-taking,
Yeah,
providing opportunities for people to share their unique gifts with the world.
exactly.
It makes you wonder, what if we nurtured that creative spark in everyone from a young age? Would we see a shift in our society? Would we be more open to new ideas, more adaptable to change, maybe even more compassionate and understanding?
That's a really interesting question, and it leads us to another element that Eiss explores, the role of play in the creative process.
Wait, you mean like having fun,
Yeah.
like being silly? How does that fit into, this whole discussion about creativity, mental illness?
Oh, it might seem, a little counterintuitive.
Right.
But Eiss argues that play is absolutely crucial for creativity. I mean, think back to your childhood, when you were a kid.
Hmm.
When you were playing, you were completely absorbed in the moment, lost in this world of imagination. There were no rules, no limits, just pure, unadulterated creativity.
I get it. It's about tapping back into that sense of wonder and freedom.
Exactly. And Eiss suggests that, when we let go of that need to be perfect,
Mm.
when we give ourselves permission to experiment and have fun, that's when the real magic happens.
So instead of approaching creativity with this, serious, goal-oriented mindset, we embrace a more playful, exploratory approach.
Precisely. I mean, he gives the example of artists and inventors who often describe their creative process as a form of play.
Mm.
They're not afraid to make mistakes, to follow their curiosity wherever it leads.
It's like giving ourselves permission to be a kid again,
Yeah.
see the world through these fresh eyes,
Mhm.
and to approach creativity with a sense of joy and wonder.
I love that, that sense of just pure exploration and discovery.
Now, Eiss takes this idea of play even further
Okay.
by connecting it to the concept of the trickster archetype.
Oh.
As in those mischievous figures we find in myths and folklore.
Yeah, like Coyote or Hermes.
Yeah, exactly. So what do they have to do with creativity?
Well, Eiss argues that tricksters embody this, this subversive, disruptive energy
Mm-hmm.
that's often necessary for creative breakthroughs.
Okay.
They shake things up. They challenge the status quo. They make us question our assumptions.
So they're like the rebels of the creative world, the ones who aren't afraid to break the rules and turn things upside down.
Exactly, and they remind us that creativity isn't always neat and tidy.
Right.
Sometimes it requires us to get a little messy, to embrace chaos and uncertainty.
It makes you wonder, do we all have a little bit of that trickster energy within us, just waiting to be unleashed?
That's a really interesting question, and it leads us to another fascinating aspect of Eiss's exploration. This idea that creativity is not just about individual genius, but about tapping into something larger than ourselves, something he calls the collective unconscious.
Okay, that sounds pretty deep. Can you explain what the collective unconscious is?
Well, it's a concept developed by the psychologist Carl Jung,
Mhm.
and he believed that beneath our individual consciousness,
Okay.
there's this vast interconnected realm of shared human experience, filled with universal symbols and archetypes and primordial images.
So it's like this wellspring of creativity that we can all we can all tap into.
Exactly. And I suggest that this connection to the collective unconscious might explain why certain themes and motifs appear in art and mythology across cultures and throughout history.
It's like we're all connected to this vast, invisible network of symbols and stories that shape our understanding of the world.
And Eiss believes that this connection to the collective unconscious might also play a role in the link between creativity and mental illness.
Okay, how so?
Well, he suggests that individuals who are highly creative might be more sensitive to the archetypal energies and symbols that reside in the collective unconscious.
So it's like they're tuning into these powerful primal energies, and that can be both inspiring and overwhelming.
Precisely. It's a double-edged sword. The same sensitivity that allows them to create art that resonates so deeply with others can also make them more susceptible to emotional distress or psychological instability.
It makes you wonder, are those we label as mad simply those who are more tuned into the unseen realms, the hidden dimensions of reality that most of us are just, oblivious to?
That's a really profound question,
Right.
And it highlights the importance of approaching this whole Mad Genius thesis with humility and a willingness to expand our understanding of what it means to be human.
Eiss also emphasizes the importance of intuition and imagination in the creative process. Intuition is that inner knowing, that gut feeling that often guides us toward those, creative breakthroughs.
Yeah.
And imagination, of course, is the ability to envision new possibilities, to step outside the limitations of the present moment and explore the realm of what if.
Exactly. And Eiss argues that these two qualities, intuition and imagination, are essential tools for navigating the invisible world, for tapping into that source of creativity that lies beyond the grasp of our rational minds.
It makes me think of Einstein's famous quote, "Logic will get you from A to B. Imagination will take you everywhere."
Yeah, that's a great one.
I suggest that we can all cultivate our intuition and imagination, through practices like meditation, mindfulness, and simply by making space for quiet reflection in our busy lives.
Mm.
Learning to listen to that inner voice, that whisper of inspiration that often gets drowned out by the noise of our everyday world.
I think that's so important in today's world, with all the distractions and the constant stimulation. It's easy to lose touch with that inner voice.
Eiss also explores this idea that creativity can be a form of healing, both for the individual and for society as a whole.
He gives examples like the use of art therapy to help people process trauma, express emotions that might be too difficult to put into words.
It's like art can be this bridge between our inner world and the outer world.
Yeah.
A way of making sense of our experiences and communicating them to others.
Exactly. And he also talks about the role of creativity in social movements and activism. Think about the power of music and art and storytelling to inspire hope, to build community and to galvanize people to work for social change.
It's like creativity can be this force for healing, not just within ourselves, but within our communities and the world as a whole.
And it's a reminder that we all have the power to contribute to that healing,
Right.
to use our creative gifts to make the world a more just, compassionate, and beautiful place.
Well said. So to wrap things up, what are some of the key takeaways from Divine Madness?
Well, I think Eiss offers us a powerful invitation to rethink our assumptions about creativity and mental illness. He encourages us to move beyond the labels and the diagnoses, to see the humanity behind the madness, and to appreciate the creative spirit in all its forms.
He reminds us that we all have that spark of creativity within us.
Yeah.
That capacity for wonder and imagination and innovation that can enrich our own lives and make the world a better place.
And perhaps most importantly, he encourages us to cultivate empathy and compassion for those who experience the world differently, to recognize that what we call madness might be another way of another way of seeing, another way of knowing, another way of being human.
It's a beautiful reminder that we're all connected, that our individual stories are part of this larger human narrative.
Yeah.
And that by embracing this interconnectedness, we can create a world that is more just, compassionate, and inspiring.
It's a vision worth striving for.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Divine Madness.
It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep creating, and keep believing in the power of the human spirit.